Volume 4 of the third-year arc Synopsis is finally released, and the single word expulsion should be enough to catch your attention. I'm the one who decided you'd be the one expelled, so I guess I can grant you that small wish. We didn't know who said it or to whom it was said, but based on my PTSD from Volume 2, this unknown word could be totally misleading. The synopsis of Volume 2 really made me think either Ayanokoji's or Tsubasa's past will finally be revealed, but it turned out it was just Shimazaki asking for study advice. For example, it could be Morishita who said it, as she acts like a leader just like what she did in the previous volume, so this quote could be just a simple joke that is not worth overthinking about. However, it is still true that there is a chance this is a real quote without a plot twist, so let's just take a look and think about it, but take everything in this video with the biggest grain of salt. Let's start with the first half of the quote, which is "I'm the one who decided you'd be the one expelled." The word decide is directly linked to authority, so the one who said this quote is most likely a class leader, or a group leader who has the authority to bring someone down, just like in Volume 8 first year arc. There will be no telling if it's a group leader, so let's just focus on the class leader. Among the 4 class leaders, I think we can exclude Ichinose from the list of culprits. And if we look at the Japanese word, this choice of word most likely belongs to Ayanokoji or Riwen, so the chosen expelled student is most likely a student from their classes. In the previous volume, Ayanokoji volunteered himself to get expelled if they lose, so if he does that again in this volume, we can take a good guess that this quote belongs to Riwen. The second half of the quote said that the said person will grant the small wish of the expelled student, and this part only confirms that the expelled student candidate has quite a close bond with the one who expelled them. It's easy to imagine Hiyori telling Riwen her last wish before she goes, or maybe it will be a really unexpected expulsion caused by betrayal, so the expelled student hopes for their class leader to find the traitor just like Kamuro did. However, it's not wise to limit the possibility only between the expelled student and their class leader. For example, it's possible that Ayanokoji arranged for Hiyori to get expelled, and then Hiyori made Ayanokoji promise to live a happy life. It's also possible that this quote doesn't happen after the expulsion, but is just a prevention in case expulsion really happens within the class. The point is, the expelled student could be anyone, but the one who said it is most likely Ayanokoji or Riwen. Even if there are too many possibilities, at least we know that some important character is in the risk of expulsion, but at least I hope that student is not Hiyori. The uninhabited island survival exam for the third years has ended. Exhausted from the ordeal, the students are soon met with the announcement of the next challenge, the token collection special exam. Students are divided into groups of 16 with 4 members from each class, forming a total of 10 groups that will compete in rankings while collecting tokens. Next we got another strange synopsis, because even though it's already confirmed that the next volume will immediately start a new exam, this synopsis doesn't give us any clue about the first and second year students. The first paragraph of the synopsis only mentions the third year, and even how they form a group specifically only mentions the 4 classes. It could mean that only the third year will participate in the next exam, but since we already got the illustration of Tsubasa and Ichika, perhaps the second year student will still participate, but in a different way or a different exam compared to the third year. For example, maybe it's similar to the first year sports festival, where the 3 grades do their own exam but later participate in the same final. Or, I got a feeling that they will only become a spectator, but still do their own games such as auction, bidding, or maybe even a full gamble betting on the third year. Looking at how Tsubasa and Ichika lived a luxurious life, while Kushida and Ibuki bathed in seawater told me that they would play a different exam. Of course it's just speculation, but from the way the synopsis sounds, it seems the next volume will still be heavily focused on the third year. Next, let's talk about the group system. This synopsis said for students from each class will form a group of 16, so there will be 10 different groups for the third year in the next exam. For a note, both Ryuwen's and Ichinose's classes still have 40 students, but Ayanokoji's class only has 37, and Horikita's class has 36, so there will be a few groups with only 15 or even fewer members. From the name of the exam, this exam sounds similar to the uninhabited island exam, but instead of points, what they are going to collect is tokens. There is no info about what this token is, but it's highly possible that it's just another name for a point, just like in the uninhabited island exam. However, Kinugasa usually came up with an intriguing system, so I could imagine there will be a few different tokens, and this token will have a lot of functions. However, the stakes are brutal. Any student whose tokens drop to 0 first during the exam, or who ends up with the lowest number of tokens in the entire year at the end, will be expelled. The tasks required to earn tokens test raw abilities such as academic skill, physical prowess, and more. While tokens can be transferred between students, the vast island makes timing and coordination extremely difficult. This part of the synopsis makes it clear what kind of exam the third-year students will face. It seems that each student will be given a certain amount of tokens at the start, and they will need to compete to get more tokens. However, the first student whose token drops to 0 will get expelled, so there will be a way for them to lose their token, such as using it for something, or losing it to another student. However, that means the token will be their problem per individual, but if that really is the case, the existence of a group makes it really confusing. If students need to secure their own token, that means they also need to compete within the group while still working in a group, so the next exam will heavily involve trust and betrayal, just like what Ayanokoji's monologue said in the previous volume. There will be a risk that your own teammate will try to make you expelled, and even if you are hoping for your classmate to save you, the vast island will make the timing and coordination extremely difficult. That's why, based on the synopsis alone, this new exam seems to be really brutal compared to all the exams we have seen before, because in the face of expulsion, even your own classmates cannot be trusted. Since the new exam will test the usual things such as academics and sports, the less capable students will definitely find this exam to be hell. So just like the uninhabited island exam, the way they choose their group will be really important. We still didn't know if the group would be decided by the students or school, but the class leader's ability to coordinate their class will be challenged this time. Needless to say, even with trusted classmates in your group, who knows what kind of challenge will happen that will force you to abandon them. That's why when the previous volume epilogue said the survival game is lenient in comparison, they really mean what they said. However, the previous volume said that this exam will have a harsher punishment compared to the survival game. But based on what we see in the synopsis, only the first student who lost their token will get expelled, so this exam has the same penalty as the previous one. Even though we still didn't know the full extent of the exam, it's highly possible that the penalty that the previous volume mentioned is not just a mere expulsion, but something even greater. Just think about it, the class could fight because they are united, but if betrayal happens and no one could be trusted anymore, the entire class could cease to exist. Maybe that is the real penalty that Ayanokoji talked about, and if that really happens, the 4-class battle could even end in this exam. And now let's talk about the last part of the synopsis, which is the most intriguing among the rest. Amid all this, one student begins to spiral out of control, exploiting the rules. Just from spiral out of control, we could assume that this certain student is not an ordinary one, and since they said to be exploiting the rules, the culprit is pretty much limited. Koenji is the most likely choice, since being out of control is pretty much all he always does. He already did something suspicious in the last volume, so it's not impossible if he starts to take things more seriously from now on. Ishigami and Tsubasa are also candidates, but the one that I suspect the most is the mysterious first-year student that has been mentioned ever since Volume 2. That student was mentioned to be really athletic, and since this is the island exam where physical ability is valued more than anything, this should be a really perfect chance for her debut. Not to mention that since she is currently unknown to everyone, no one is going to put any attention toward her, so she could go spiral out of control as much as she wants. This certain student seems to be very important in the next volume, and if the next volume really lives up to the hype and prediction, something big could happen that will shake the entire core of the 4-class battle. It could be the expulsion of an important character, or maybe the rise of Koenji, but no matter what it is, let's just keep our expectations low for maximum satisfaction.